What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So we are now less than 1 month away from E3, which means a ton of hype and excitement is starting to build online, which also means a ton of rumors are starting to spread. And we're going to go over that here today because it really took over like the second half of last week through the weekend. Headlines all over the place, and we'll kind of go over where all that's coming from. Also, we're going to talk about some big leaks that are now online for Starfield just ahead of E3. And we're also going to be talking about Sony PlayStation Studios' Steam page with several hidden listings that could be pointing towards Sony's big push into PC. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. If new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're going to start today with Hades, a game that released last year out of early access onto PC and also released on the Switch. It really was met with critical acclaim, great reviews across the board, big time sales, and even found its way into the Game of the Year conversation, being nominated next to games like Ghost of Tsushima and Last of Us Part 2. Now it looks like it's heading to another platform, and we can see this here. This was from the Korean Ratings Committee, where we can see Hades has now been rated for the PlayStation 4. This was right at the end of April, so we're a couple of weeks from when this went in, but this does show us that we're going to be seeing this probably announced here pretty soon. Could be an E3 announcement, could be a Twitter drop ahead of E3, but either way, good news for Hades. More people who can check this game out, the better. Get them more sales, obviously, to work on more games, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is one that also ends up going to Microsoft with the Xbox. Maybe they even get that Game Pass check and it just drops in immediately. But the more people who can check this game out, the better. Good to see all of this here, and we'll look forward to an announcement for Hades on the PlayStation 4. Also, it's been a while since we've had a big Kirby game announcement. We did have Kirby Fighters 2 last year. That's kind of a smaller announcement, but we did have Kirby Star Allies in 2018, and it looks like HAL Laboratory is getting prepped for maybe a new reveal for that next Kirby game. We can head over here. This was translated by Nintendo Everything, and this is from the Kirby Star Allies director Shinyu Kumazaki, who says, "And now finally we can move on to the next phase. I still try new things at work every day, talking with my colleagues about where to take the Kirby series next. Together with them, even if only to please a single fan, we're planning for the next stage of our future. The team is a culmination of the best aspects of the Kirby franchise, and we hope you'll look forward to what we have coming next." So there have been a lot of rumors and ideas around it being a 3D Kirby game, and I would like to see that, but I'm kind of expecting this to just be another 2D Kirby game. I mean, especially if it's coming out, say, later this year or even early next year, that'd be like a 3-year development window. So I'm thinking if they do make a big push for like what would be a big time change for what we're used to with Kirby, it would probably take a bit longer. But I do like the idea of that. I'm just more so expecting another 2D Kirby game. Either way, though, good news for Kirby fans. It shouldn't be too much longer until you see the next one. Oh, and there also still seem to be a lot of questions around Battlefield 6 and if it'll just be a next-gen game or also like on the Xbox One or the PlayStation 4. Figure we'd go over that very quickly here. We can head over here to VGC. This from Andrew Wilson on a call with EA for their earnings call with investors and all of this, saying Battlefield will be available for both current and next gen, as will our sports title. So they're not making that clean break yet with this next Battlefield game that should be revealed next month, and then I'm sure they'll do like a ton of gameplay for it in July with their EA Play event that they'll be doing. But this didn't go over great online because people are still concerned that you got to develop for that Xbox One VCR. How next gen will this title really be? But EA continues to double down on the fact that they are prepping a big time next gen version. So we'll see how all of this compares. And I'm sure the Digital Foundry videos across all these different platforms will be very interesting to check out. And guys, some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with all of these E3 Nintendo rumors that have been making the rounds because it really blew up online. I was actually surprised how many of these rumors started to make headlines at some of the bigger websites out there, but a lot of these seem to come from like one spot. And we can head over here. This was a blog spot that is called Zippo Speaks, and Zippo has an interesting track record. It's gotten some stuff right, some stuff wrong, but it tends to happen when it comes to trying to time some announcements, as there are things that have not been announced but are still in the works technically. And when you start to hear about some of these different things, whether they're true or not, you start to try to line up when they could be announced. And then, you know what, sometimes plans change in the background, but I wanted to go over some of these because I have heard of a couple of these actually. And the big thing here is Zippo did recently call like the Mario Golf game, for example, that's coming out next month. Looking forward to that one, by the way. But after going over all of the already announced games like Skyward Sword HD, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, we kind of get into the unannounced rumored games. And these are the ones that really started to make headlines. For example, a 2D Metroid game. This is one that I feel like we've been talking about on the Spawncast for like at least a year to a year and a half now. It's mentioned here that it's currently running at a very smooth 60 frames per second, and it is from Mercury Steam. Once again, something we've been kind of talking about for a bit now. Not surprising at all here about a 2D Metroid game. I actually fully expect this to most likely be announced at E3, and I'm very curious to see what it looks like on the Switch. Should be really fun there. Donkey Kong is the other one. We already went over this. This is, again, one of the rumors that really started to make the rounds last week, but there was a bit of an update to reiterate on the fact that it does appear to be a 2D game, just outright. So there we go. Unfortunately, not a 3D Donkey Kong game. And then we kind of get into Fire Emblem here. Now, Zippo does talk about how we could be seeing a remake of the Japan-only Super Famicom title Genealogy of the Holy War, and even anticipating an E3 announcement, as it does appear to be nearly complete. So we'll see what they have for Fire Emblem there. And I did kind of laugh at this one. Obviously, you'll know why in a second. Super Mario Party 2. I fully expect this, and I'll tell you why. Because it seems like something Nintendo would do after updating Super Mario Party to have online play, because they are Nintendo. But, I mean, Super Mario Party was very successful, probably more so than Nintendo expected, with like 15 million sold so far, easily the best-selling one in the series now. So the fact that that update didn't bring any new boards, it's kind of expected that we would be seeing another Super Mario Party. Whether it be at E3 or not, that's another question there. More 99 games, also not too surprising, and I kind of expect to see one announced at E3 just to continue adding on to the value of their Nintendo Switch Online that people continue to question as we go along here. The Zelda 35th anniversary. Once again, we have talked about that here. Wind Waker, Twilight Princess HD bundle, that does appear to be a thing, even from what I've heard. So I guess you can look forward to playing those at some point on the Switch. Not sure what else they're really doing. It's mentioned here maybe Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask having a bundle, but I can at least tell you Wind Waker and Twilight Princess is kind of expected. And the big one, obviously, is Breath of the Wild 2, which a lot of people are starting to talk about it becoming a 2022 title. So falling within this fiscal year, just not this holiday necessarily. So we'd be looking maybe into like March, for example, for Breath of the Wild 2. And then we have a new Mario Kart that, I mean, it's time for a new Mario Kart, but as we've all kind of realized, wow, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe keeps selling, so Nintendo might not be in a massive rush to release it. However, they also know if they do release it, it will not only spike Switch sales, but also software sales across the board, and they would have massive record-setting sales on their hands for this game. Like, this might be a game, a new Mario Kart, like Mario Kart 9, that they actually can't make enough cartridges for initially in the first week. So it was an interesting read, obviously, to go over some of the unannounced game that Zippo has heard of, and I guess with the track record that Zippo has accumulated here, you're gonna have more and more places and people kind of pay attention to it, and that's why you saw so many websites pop up with these different rumors and kind of break them into separate articles, so it was almost like blanketed all over the website. But there's a lot of hype going into E3, and I do want to point out that you might not necessarily see like all of these different titles just thrown out there all at once. And that is something that people have a hard time understanding, is that Nintendo might want to break some of these up. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, all of these are getting announced at some point. They wouldn't necessarily say, okay, they're all happening at E3. Like DK, for example, could be announced at the end of this year during like a fall direct or something to that nature, especially if it's not coming out till, say, next year. The 2D Metroid game is a good example of one that I would expect for like at E3. But interesting stuff there. Let me know what you guys think about some of the rumors now going around about Nintendo's E3. Since we're less than a month away, I expect even more to start popping up online. Should be interesting. Next up, let's talk about another title that is heavily anticipated, and people are really looking forward to E3 to find out more information about this, because it does seem poised to have a big reveal here, whether it's from Bethesda or Microsoft, and that is Starfield. Now, recently, Jeff Grubb mentioned that he's basically 100% confident that Starfield is going to be an Xbox and PC exclusive. It won't be on PlayStation, which is still hard for people to grasp, but Microsoft put out $7.5 billion so that they could keep these games to themselves. So it's something I've been expecting for a while now, but it does look like Starfield keeps leaking. And we had talked about screenshots that leaked like months ago, and now looks like we're getting some of our best looks at this game yet. And we can actually take a look at some of those different screenshots here that were shared. And most of these were shared, what appears to be by Skullsy on Twitter, where they kind of explain how they got a hold of this thing. So the images were sent to me and I was told to make a vid on them. However, I knew some of these already. Oddly enough though, my sources at the same time told me I could talk about a few random things I was told a while back about Starfield. So something is going on here, essentially thinking that maybe it's a controlled leak. And that's always, those are always theories that people have about different things, whether it's when that Series X just randomly leaked online where someone took a picture of it on carpet and they were like, that was a controlled leak, right? Hard to say there. But when you start having screenshots and information sent out and saying you can talk about it, yeah, it does kind of strike me as odd. But we can see some of the screenshots here, and this is like the best look we've had so far of Starfield. And I'll tell you now, yeah, some of these images do appear to be legit. And the interesting thing about this, I've noticed we haven't had any screenshots that show combat necessarily. It does sort of feel like Starfield is going to be heavily based on exploration, which is interesting. I think that could be fun. And there were also different surveys that were going out from Bethesda asking about like spaceship customization. I don't really know a lot of Bethesda games let you do that yet, so that's something else maybe we can look forward to with the big Starfield reveal. I am interested in this game. There's been a lot of noise and hype around it, despite us really not seeing anything about this game. The most we've really talked about is, will it be on the Xbox and the PlayStation, or just on the Xbox after Microsoft bought Bethesda and ZeniMax? But it's been in development for a while, appears set for its reveal, and will it be 2021? Will it be 2022? Well, we'll talk about that a little later on in the show with our poll. Next up, let's talk about PlayStation Studios' new page on Steam. You can see it here, and it does appear that they have 41 listings, with 26 of them public and active, which means there's about 15 that are currently hidden. Now, some of these do appear to be DLC, as example, parts of the 26 that are public for things like Helldivers. We also have Predator, Horizon, you can see there, Days Gone, which is out, I believe, either today or tomorrow. So that'll be fun when that one drops there. But it does look like we are starting to see Sony prepare to make some announcements, as they've basically carved out a space on Steam to really show these different games off and prepare like a mini store there. I still think it's possible that you could see Sony come up with their own PlayStation launcher for PC, because then they don't necessarily have to give Steam a cut of their first party titles, but they have to kind of build up the library. Having like 3 games, with one being Predator. I mean, Days Gone's gotten better. Obviously, people have been more interested in the game as of late, but like, that's not exactly going to get people jumping into your launcher necessarily. If you show up with things like God of War and Last of Us and Uncharted, you might get more people in. But I feel like right now, Sony's just trying to get on the map for PC. And that does mean I think they're going to have some announcements around PC releases pretty soon, and that's part of this page being set up on Steam, so that when they make the announcement, it will be live immediately right here, and you can actually follow them on Steam, so that when those go live, you can immediately jump over to the store. Which game, though, is going to be the next one? Because that is the big question right now, and I kind of believe it's going to be God of War. That's one they can probably charge a full $60 for at this point, and it would be one of those big moments where like, wow, God of War is really on PC. I still think Gran Turismo would be really cool, because you'd be able to get some awesome, I think, graphical effects and super high frame rates out of it. But I mean, God of War is one that people immediately say, okay, this is a PlayStation game, but now it's on PC. This is pretty cool. And obviously, visually, that's going to look great, especially if you throw in some really cool features for things like ultra widescreen support. We could probably see God of War in a whole new light, but certainly keep an eye on this page, especially as we head towards E3. Sony's not going to be there, But I mean, come on, they're going to have their own event that might even be placed around it to kind of take over the spotlight a bit. And I'm starting to wonder if some of these presentations, like a State of Play, could have PC announcements in them next to the PlayStation announcements, because if they can really build up an audience on PC for their first party games, I mean, Sony's just looking to make a ton of money from that. And in our last bit of news, speaking of Sony and the PlayStation, we've of course seen supply issues around the PS5. It's very difficult to find one because they can sell them online, and that's kind of it, and they sell out immediately, right? I mean, bots have a field day with this whole thing, and the systems are still like $1,000+ on places like eBay. Well, it looks like in the UK, the scarcity around the PS5 is so bad right now, the PS4 is outselling it. We can head over here to gamesindustry.biz, where they say Nintendo Switch was comfortably the best-selling console of April 2021, unseating PS5. There was a significant drop in PS5 console stock last month, and in fact, PS4 was April's best-selling PlayStation machine. That's right. The PS4 is the best-selling system from Sony in the UK. Now, that could also mean the PS4 didn't even sell that well, but because there's just no PS5s to buy, well, I mean, 10 systems would be more than 5 systems, so there could be something like that. It's also possible that people are going to the store, there's no PS5 there, but there's a PS4, and it's not even that, like, you go there thinking, okay, I'm gonna spend $600, $700, because the PS5 on its own is $500 or $400, but it's not there, and there's like a PS4 there for $200 or $300, and it still has games like Spider-Man Miles Morales on it. Some people might just say, look, I want to play this game, I'm just going to get the PS4 for now, because who knows when the PS5 is going to get back in stock. It's tough for Sony right now because they want to get people to the PS5 as soon as possible, but they're still selling PS4s because they can't stock PS5s. Now, this is just in the UK, but I mean, we've seen it in Japan happen as well. And these are just the sales charts we can go off of currently. We can look towards the MPD as we get more information the following month, but it's tough for Sony right now. And here's hoping they can get it all sorted out by the holiday season. But I mean, the word is that we could be going throughout next year even, still having supply constraints around these new consoles for the PS5, the Xbox, and possibly even the Switch, depending on how long this chip shortage goes. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're taking a little poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked which game has the best chance of releasing in 2021. Most of you voted for Breath of the Wild 2 at 29%, 11% voted for Starfield, 8% of people voted for Bayonetta 3. Wow. And then 52% of you just said, yeah, none of these games are coming out in 2021. If I had to take a pick, I mean, honestly, I might pick Bayonetta 3 because I don't think Breath of the Wild 2 is coming out this year now based on what's been going around, and same with Starfield. So Bayonetta 3, I mean, when did we find out about that game? It's been a while now. So there are legitimate concerns about Bayonetta 3 right now, right? Because we haven't seen anything about it. So the only thing we can assume is that there were development issues at some point. So I'd like to think that Bayonetta 3 went smoothly, and they're going to tell us about it like 2 or 3 months ahead of launch. It's going to be this awesome looking game, really cool concept. But right now, looking up and down the board here, I guess I'll go with Bayonetta 3, but I mean, maybe something like Starfield or Breath of the Wild 2 can surprise us and come out sometime in, say, November. And we'll finish up with a comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Frank saying, it's time for Altered Beast to rise from your grave. And I was thinking about that with some of the games on that list. Sega probably looks at it and says, can we actually make a $60 game out of something like an Altered Beast just based on the history of the game? And I kind of looked through it and I was like, oh yeah, there was a PS2 version of Altered Beast. I mean, it doesn't look very good. I think it only came out in Japan, and I've seen some people online even emulating it through some of the different PS2 emulators you can use right now, and it just doesn't look like it translated over very well from 2D, so I don't know if the Altered Beast title would bring in a ton of sales currently, but like Jet Set Radio, yeah, maybe that could work. Something like Virtua Fighter, I think, would still have a place, especially in the fighting game community. Crazy Taxi, maybe. But like, are any of these games $60, even $70 games as we head into this generation with some of these different companies, even third parties starting to move up to that? I think that's a struggle that Sega currently has right now, and here's hoping they can figure it out, because I still remember how awesome some of these games were on things like obviously the Genesis, but definitely the Dreamcast with things like Crazy Taxi and Jet Set Radio. So here's hoping they can get it figured out. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Well, there's all these leaks and rumors around Nintendo and Starfield. What do you think about all this heading into E3? Let me know about that one. And then also, what about Sony making a big push into PC with their Steam page now live and a bunch of hidden listings? Which game do you think is next to go to PC from PlayStation Studios? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.